that we adopt the agenda as it is. Second, it has been moved and seconded that we adopt the agenda as it is. Those in favor, please say aye. And those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. The agenda is hereby adopted. I think they are right. The agenda was just given to the chair, and then I made some amendment, the dating. But money was not here to circulate to the members. Okay. We only put it in the file. Can we continue from where we stopped? Let me remind that our clerks have ruled by 4-day close. And it's very difficult to continue with the meeting without clerks. So that is going to be the order by 4, wherever we are, that's where we'll be stopping. So Accountant General and Auditor General, take note. We don't intend to go beyond 4. We want to stop exactly at 4. Okay? The next point, we stop at capital expenditure, and then we proceed from there. And then the next point will be on inappropriate procurement process by Office of the President, OP. The auditor reviewed that on March 20, 2019, that, yeah, page 26. Take 26, inappropriate procurement process by OP. The auditor revealed that on March 28th, an assessment was carried by the Ministry of Works, and then based on which the rehabilitation works was supposed to take place at State House with a payment amounting to $17,488,155.63. Page 26, to Guy Enterprise. Yeah. And furthermore, the auditor examined that the procurement document revealed that the goods bought from Fatima Trading amounting $5,637,000 were delivered to Office of the President before requesting for a single source approval from GPPA, and that the review payment of the voucher number indicated revealed that the office equipment to tune of $50,251 was paid to Fatima Trading, for which no receipt was provided. And in addition, the purchase order and request for quotations were only issued for 4 days rather, after the payment has already been made to supplier on the 27th December. On the basis of that, the auditor recommended that a request that the Office of the President and the Ministry of Works provide explanation for the above abnormalities, and then advise that the Office of the President follow the due process for all procurement to ensure that the public funds are judiciously spent for their intended purpose in accordance with the laws of the Gambia. And the management responded to this query. Management?
We would like to accept the auditor's query, and our response is that it is noted. However, this query, the approval, a retrospective approval was sought to regularize the oversight.
From the auditor, indicated that the GPA regulations are there to ensure transparency and value for money. Request for retrospective approval of this contract by Office of the President completely ignores these objectives. What's your take on that?
It is noted. Like we said, the comment is noted and it is accepted.
Honorable, having heard from the management their response and their further response to the further response of the Auditor General, the floor is now open for any supplementary question. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Chair. Before going into the implications, let's look at the management response first. Apart from the response, 3 critical areas are left blank. One is the action to be taken, the officer responsible, and the date and when the situation will be regularized. So, how do we evaluate the commitment of the Office of the President if at all these mandatory spaces are left blank?
I wish to note that under normal circumstances, these spaces are to be filled by the auditor. Our responsibility here is to provide a response. The auditor's responsibility is to provide response. But in terms of timeline and who is responsible to take action, usually the auditor would indicate that.
Chairman, before I proceed, if you can allow the auditor to respond to that.
For the supplementary?
Yes, but before I proceed, the auditor wants to respond to that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I wish to clarify this point. All these sections under management response are the responsibility of the audited entity to state: 1, the action taken by management; 2, officer responsible for remedial action, who is assigned the task to ensure that this action is implemented; 3, also identify the date when the situation is expected to be regularized. So we have no say in this. It is entirely the responsibility of the audited entity, here in this case, the OP through Accountant General, to have this space completed. Thanks.
Thank you, Auditor. To the Accountant General, Chair, do I have the space?
Okay.
To the Accountant General, who is responsible for these procurements at the Office of the President?
In all entities, government entities, the procuring organization is responsible for this. And in all these entities, you have procurement officers.
Were they contacted with regards to this audit query?
Who exactly?
The procurement unit.
Usually, when we have audit queries, what we do is we would send it to the vote controller. We deal with them and not with everybody else in the institution, because you are the person responsible for this. So you collate your responses and send to AGD for consolidation.
And who is the vote controller specifically?
The vote controller in any institution would be the permanent secretary.
But now, in the case of the Office of the President, who is the vote controller?
The permanent, the permanent secretary.
The permanent secretary. So do you take it to say he provided these responses without bringing up the commitments as to when they will do it, who are the officers responsible?
Expect that some of these fields, they look at it and then provide us, because they know what is involved in terms of what they're going to take, the timeline and everything, to be able to give us an appropriate response to submit to the auditors. So it is just fair for them to say that it will take us this long or so.
Chair, on a final note, the values in question are really significant, and the management response doesn't provide any commitment from the Office of the President with regards to the actions which should be taken by the vote controller. So I would propose, in conclusion, that we get back to the permanent secretary, because everything you are telling us now will be based on hearsay. We are talking about 17.4 million and 5.6, even though they said in future they wouldn't do it, but the commitment is not stipulated here. So, Chair, we need to get commitment beyond saying we regularize it. The commitment is not there.
Yes, as far as the management response is concerned, it is saying that a retrospective approval was sought, so which means they have taken action to regularize the situation. But whether that action is sufficient is another matter. Because if you look at it, substance over form, what happened has actually happened. It is gone. This is now trying to fix it after the event. So which means they have done something. They have sought the approval that the auditors are querying.
I will ask this question to GPPA. How does retrospective approval stand in your positions?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable, when we talk about a retroactive approval, here we are referring to transactions that have already taken place prior to certain approval from the authority, which of course is against the Procurement Act. However, there are certain circumstances in which, based on the explanations and the like, we may waive. So in this case, what the auditors are saying is a retroactive approval which is accepted. Okay? Now, the actions to be taken probably here may mean the remedial actions to avoid it happening again, because it's something that has taken place already. So I think the remedial actions here is what is to be clarified to avoid the occurrence of same, and who is going to be responsible to ensure that something of that nature doesn't happen again. I think that is what the auditors are asking for.
Yes, I just want to clarify that the accounting officer at the office of the president is the Secretary General and not the permanent secretary of the right.
That's the accounting officer. He is the Secretary General. And that is the board controller per se. Okay, noted.
Chairman, last
Anyway,
question.
Sorry.
Chair,
Yeah.
that needs to be clarified.
Okay.
We will confirm that.
Okay, both sides
Last-
are noted.
Last question, still to GPPA. Are you telling us that retrospective approval is acceptable under the GPPA regulations?
Acceptable.
Thank you. Chair, I do not have further questions. Let's get to the vote controller and try to understand exactly what happened. Thank you.
Okay, the position is the situation to be regularized, and then the Accountant General is not in position to tell so, and then we will indulge the board controller, whether it's the PS or the Secretary General, to make that commitment. So the further clarification by the Accountant General to confirm whether the PS or the Secretary General is the board controller. When that is established, then the officer in charge will take the responsibility to make that commitment to commit for the situation to be regularized. I think that's the action point. Any other observation on that? In the absence of no observation, we proceed to the next point. Page 28, failure to adhere to contract agreement. During the review of procurement committee meetings, the auditor noted rehabilitation works at State House, and which was considered urgent, that stated the request to seek approval from GPA for the use of single source in awarding the contract. Further review of the contract document signed between Government of the Gambia and Guy Enterprise for the rehabilitation works revealed that payments will be made in the stages as detailed below. The first stage, advance payment, 25% of the contract sum amounting to $3,497,631.13. And then the first interim payment of which 30% of the contract sum when the ground floor is completed, amounting to $5,246,446.69. The second interim payment, 30% also of the contract sum, with the first floor is when the first floor is completed, also amounted to the same figure above. And then the final payment, 20% of the contract sum when all other works are completed at a tune of $3,497,631.13. Big total, $17,488,155.63. The contractor required that the certificate of completion for each stage will be issued by the Ministry of Works before payment is made. However, the auditor noted from the review of payment voucher dated 27 May 2019 that Guy Enterprise was paid the full amount, $17,488,155.63, as opposed to payment in stages. In addition, copies of completion certificate for each stage were not provided for audit team. The recommendation advanced by the auditor reads, the Office of the President should provide explanation for the above abnormalities, and that the Office of the President is advised to follow procurement regulations to ensure that public funds are judiciously spent and the management adequately responded.
Our initial response to this query says the contractor only requested for payment upon completion of the job. The recommendation is noted, and in future this office will strictly adhere to terms and conditions of payment of this contractor. In our subsequent response, we further made an investigation to confirm actually when this payment was done. We have looked at the details relating to this payment, and we noticed that Ministry of Works, Ministry of Transport, Works and Infrastructure, who was supervising the work, has assessed the work and advised on the amount due to be paid. So we confirmed through a letter, written letter reference BLD 31 160-02-22 ES, dated 20th of March 2019.
Accountant General, a minute, sorry.
That further response you are talking about, where is it stated in the management letter?
I have it on mine.
Is it in the management letter?
The updated one?
Yeah,
the one that was shared.
Updated. Yes? Yeah. What is trying to say?
Pardon?
The one we confine ourselves to the management letter. In the course of question and answer, if there is any additional thing that you have, then you can bring that up.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you didn't have this. But like I said,
yeah, we have it. I think the issue was raised the other time, and then the auditors, their position is that we restrict ourselves to the management letter. If there is any further development that can come up in your explanation.
Fact, it's not even in the updated one we have received, so that's a matter not to be dealt with because we are not okay with that.
Yeah, in fact, whether it's in the updated or not,
yeah,
we
and
are
I have a
confining
question.
ourselves to what is in the management letter. please.
Okay, maybe I want to beg to make some clarification. From the last time we came here, we were tasked to go and work on the management letter and get some updated response as at this time, present time. So that was what was being done, including the impresses that we had handled. So this was a continuous process, and as far as the process was concerned, after reviewing this, the continuous process was to still engage the sectors, including also searching internally to see if there is any additional documentation or any additional material that significantly affect the position as we have it today. So during that engagement, we came up with evidence that has changed it. So that is what is coming out here. Unfortunately, I am not aware that it's not part of what was shared with you.
Yeah, we understand. I think we have the updated one. What we are trying to establish is the procedure. If we are to do the consideration, we limit ourselves to the management letter. Having read your management response, if there are further questions as to what happened after,
Okay.
then you can give the further update. As it stands, this is the situation, and that's going to be corroborated with the position of the Auditor General. But first, we should hear from you on the basis of what is in the management letter.
Okay.
So if there are further questions to give further update, then that can come up. I think, Honorable Cham, that's the position. Yes. So now we have had her version as what is entailed in the management letter. But the further comment of the auditor also, the finding remain unresolved up to the time of finalizing this management letter. What's your take on that, Accountant General?
So here, what we're looking at, the query, the auditor's query is about payment in stages as agreed on the contract document. But our investigation reveals that we were not paying, or the government was not paying based on those stages. However, government paid after all the works were done. And there is evidence to support that claim, which means that 17,000 was paid in May. 17 million instead of 17,000, excuse me, was eventually paid in May. So here, there could be many reasons. Yes, maybe government did not pay as per the contract document or agreement because they didn't have money then, or something else. But what I can attest to is the fact that there is evidence that no money was paid at inception or as per the agreed timelines, but when the job was done, a payment to that magnitude of 17 million was paid.
That is, there is evidence that the money was not paid on the stages as entailed in the contract agreement.
Yes, we have
But
not come across any evidence to
of
indicate that. Yes.
But you have the evidence that it was paid in full
Yeah, yeah,
upon completion of the work.
yeah.
27 as at 27 May 2019, the work was completed.
Yes,
Then after
based
which,
on the assessment of the Ministry of Works.
yes, then after which the payment was done.
Yeah.
Honorable members,
Then maybe we can leave it to the auditor. Hence, they have some other findings there for him to clarify.
after all, did you make those evidences available to the auditor for verification?
Like I said, this is a recent development that we have come across. So the auditors are not privy to this information, but it's here.
How recent is it? You said it's a recent development. How recent? I'm
Pardon?
sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. I said you said it's a recent development.
Yes.
How recent is it?
How recent? How recent? How recent? Well, This was during the course of January, February.
this year.
But the payment voucher was also available at the time of the audit because that was what was quoted.
Okay. Auditor?
Yes. As at the date of the report, this information was not available because we cannot have the audit on end. Then at some point, we've got to close the assignment. As at the date of the report, this new development was not made available to audit team. And even with the provision of the additional information, the substance of the findings still remain unchanged. It's a contravention of the contract agreement. The contract agreement clearly stipulates that payment has to be done in stages. Because, for example, if you make payment after the completion of the work without certifying the different stages, there's a tendency that work is substandard, and you will not be able to remedy those situations because already the payment is already effected. But then, if payment is made at different stages, you would have certified at each level of works and ensure that work is done up to quality and that you are satisfied, then payment can be made. Thank you.
Accountant General, can we take that PS or the Secretary General is responsible for the remedial action?
Yes, he is responsible for the remedial action. However, based on our mandate of payments, we went through the documentation that the auditors have cited as a payment voucher. The query here is payment in stages. So here we are saying, yes, we accept the fact that payments were not done in stages. However, payment was made on the 27th of May, 2019 for an amount of 17,488,155. And this was the same document that the auditors reviewed, and it's also indicated on the query.
Can I clarify here, please? This is going to be kind of misleading information. The description on the payment voucher is quite misleading because if you look at the total amount quoted, that is the total sum of the contract amount, and that can be made in stages. You've seen clearly on the face of the finding that each stage has its own price quoted. Mm-hmm. So if the 17 million is quoted as payment of contract fees in stages, the description is then misleading, and that has to be corrected.
That is not what the description says. It says construction of office building on the payment voucher.
Yeah, but you just said, I just overheard perhaps that you said payment in stages. That's what I want to clarify, if that is what is on the PV. Yeah?
No, what I'm saying is payments were not done in stages. That is accepted. However, payment was done in May after the works were done.
You have quoted. Yeah.
Okay, maybe Chair, I think this bit of having to fill this other section of officer in charge also, maybe it needs to come out now with our engagement with the sectors, because usually what we concentrate on is their response to the query. As far as they take care of that bit, we normally don't handle this other bit where we ask them to give us action to be taken, as far as, for example, they have taken action or have given us adequate response. So I think for them to provide that response is the action they have taken. So maybe going forward, we would also task them to fill those areas.
the Accountant General a question as to at what stage of this accounting document report were you involved in this accounting report?
Pardon?
Because hence you said that the management response wasn't done by you. It must have been done by the vote controller. And since the vote controller is not around to justify, so I believe you cannot, anything that you are saying would be something maybe based on your understanding. So, and we want to have a first-hand information and knowledge about these issues.
That is a fact, but also in certain instances, we're part of the process. This is about payment, and we are also involved in payment. So when this query came up, the initial response was given to us by the vote controller. But then we looked at it, like I said, this is a continuous process. When we looked at it and saw that it was, it had to do with payment, we went further to confirm, whether payments were done in stages or how was it done. So we queried the system and came up with this. So as far as the payment is concerned, because the query is about payment and we are also involved, because now if you engage the sector, they give you information or they give you a response. As far as it's about payment, we should be able to use it, because when it is payment, it must have passed through us. So that is where our involvement comes in. So we went further to confirm whatever was said, and we came up with this. That is now trying to corroborate whatever they have with what we have to come up with a response.
We are saying here, there is an anomaly here in the contract process. Were you also part of the contract agreement?
We were not part of the contract agreement, but the query here, we're specifically focusing on the query, which is about payment and payment being done in stages. So here, we went to confirm what is available to us, and as far as payment is concerned, how was it done? So we confirmed, and we did not see, like the chairman said, did you confirm that no other payment was done apart from this one? I said nothing has come to our attention to suggest that there were any other payments other than this one as far as this contract is concerned. What we can see from our system is what we have produced as evidence, that this payment voucher that the auditors are also making mention of as far as this query is concerned is here, and it was made like this. However, the query that has to do with it being done in stages was not, it's still valid, because we saw an outflow of cash amounting to 17 million for the purpose of these works. So that is where our involvement comes in. And I also said it could be a reason. There could be many reasons to this, why we did not. Because personally, I would say that in terms of cash flow, maybe government was not in a position to pay us at that time, to pay based on the stages, although maybe that was what was contracted or what was agreed. But what I can confirm is the payment was done once after the contract period.
That means you are taking full responsibility of the document.
For the payment.
Yeah. But
for the
equally,
payment.
You can also take the responsibility of actions to be taken and all those other requirements.
I am not taking full responsibility of other things other than the payment that has come through me or had happened in my office. The responsibility of adhering to the contract terms is the responsibility of the vote controller.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, I just want to ask the letter that you received regarding the completion of the project. Who wrote it and who signed it?
Should be the supervising agency, Ministry of Works.
So meaning instead of doing the part payment, so the contractor decided to implement the whole project, then later paid. It's just a question whether.
That is what the evidence suggests. But whether that is what happened, I was not there. Because the evidence here indicates that the contract payment was done after completion of works.
So that's exactly where I'm driving at. Since he is not the vote controller, and as per our practice here at FPAC, the vote controller should be present here so that he can clarify things that we don't understand in this report. In having them here, I think that will help us a lot to ensure that such anomalies don't happen again in the future.
No, I forget. Now, the next point is the failure to gazette the award of Banjul drainage roads and sewage project. There are regulations that stipulated that it's a legal requirement, and the auditor noted during the review of documents, they noted that the Ministry of Justice had advised through letter, reference number indicated, dated 18 June 2019, that the approval by the President and Cabinet of the award of the BDRS project to Guy Enterprise in May 2019 amounting to 35,720,000 should be gazetted before the conclusion of the engineering, procurement, and construction contract. The audit team requested a copy of this gazette from the ministry to confirm that this award has indeed been gazetted before the signing of the contract, but none was provided for review up to the time of writing this management letter. The audit team also requested evidence of invitation for project proposal from the Office of the President initially sent to Guy Enterprise, and any minutes of contract committee meetings relevant to this project from Office of the President, but none were provided for review up to the time of writing this management letter. On the basis of that, the auditor recommended that the Ministry of Transport, Works and Infrastructure provide the above document for audit verification, and that the audit advised the ministry to follow proper documentation procedures for transparency and accountability. The auditor, the accountant, the management also responded.
Do I read the initial response?
Exactly.
The legal advice was adhered to, as the award of the contract was gazetted through legal notice number 10 of 2021. Exemption from GPPA approval order 2021 signed, and gazette number GN 22/2021. And documentary evidence is available.
Well, when did this happen? Was it after the contract or before the awarding of the contract?
That's what it looks like.
After.
Yeah.
And that is what is entailed in the auditors
Yes.
further comment.
Yeah.
What stated that?
Pardon?
I say, what stated that?
I am not in a position to tell.
The gazette was prepared on the 15th February 2021, which is almost 2 years after the commencement of the contract. As stated in the GPP Act 2014, the President may by order publish in gazette, except any procurement organization from acquiring approval of the authority concerning any procurement in the whole or in part. And in such case, the Cabinet shall be responsible for giving such approval instead of the authority. This is an indication that the contract concerned without approval from either the President or GPA. Therefore, the issue remains unresolved up to the time of finalizing the management letter. The auditor, when was the management letter finalized?
Letter was finalized and dispatched, I think somewhere in between May of last year. I need to go back to my records to
May 2022.
Yes, I need to check and confirm that date, sir.
And then what is indicated here under the management response, the award of the contract was gazetted through legal notice in 2021. And at the time you were finalizing, it was after 2021 you finalized the report.
Yeah, the audit.
If there's any claim that this gazetting was done before you finalizing the claim, has that been brought to your notice?
No. What I can safely say is that if you look at the finding seems to suggest that this particular contract was not gazetted as at the commencement of the contract. But after, say, almost 2 years after the contract had commenced. That is our point, which is contrary to the provisions of the GPPA Act.
What I'm trying to establish, when you say after 2 years, I'm trying to relate to what is in the management response that in 2021, precisely, this contract was gazetted. Whether that was done before finalizing the contract or otherwise.
Yes, it was gazetted well after, if I get it right, well after the contract was signed and the audit, the work had already commenced.
Honorable members, any point on that?
Also request for them to furnish us with the gazette since it is available for inspection.
Yeah, the gazette number is indicated, and then even whereas it might have come late, I think the auditor was privy to it. Yeah.
The evidence was reviewed. That was what was indicated here to say it was prepared on this particular date, which is the 15th of February 2021. The information was provided to the audit team.
Yeah, the concern is having done it after instead of before the commencement of the work. I think that's the concern.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. The concern is noted. Next point is on project commence before the contract signature. The final review of documentation and discussions with officer revealed that the Banjul drainage, roads and sewage contract was signed in May 2019 and tabled at the National Assembly on 12 June 2019. The project is scheduled to be completed by November 2021. Further review of the consultant's report and inspection of the updated program of work of the project revealed that the actual work commenced on March 2019. 2 months before the contract was signed and submitted to the National Assembly for discussion in June 2019. This further raised concerns over transparency leading to award of the contract. The auditor recommended that request detailed explanation and justification from the Ministry of Works, Transport and Infrastructure on the commencement of the contract before official signing of the contract. The contract kick-started before the official signing, and then the ministry need to explain why. Management respond?
What we have is that on the 16th of February 2019, His Excellency the President launched the Banjul Rehabilitation and Rebuilding Project at the Banjul Mini Stadium, attended by a wide spectrum of the Banjul community members of stakeholder institutions, and various dignitaries, including the Mayor of Banjul. At the launching, the President noted that Banjul has been facing challenges in terms of flooding and leakages of sanitary waste, coupled with the loss of the structural integrity of the roads due to the high underground water table. The implementation of this project cannot come to a better time than today in addressing all the challenges the people of Banjul are facing. In addition to the launching of the project by His Excellency the President in February 2019, the physical conditions of the drainage and sewage systems of the capital city Banjul were deteriorating and at crisis point, danger of cholera outbreak, demanding urgency and expedited actions, especially in the face of the impending 2019 rainfall season. The situation demanded the launching of an immediate project in the form of an engineering procurement construction contract with a local contractor with the capacity to do EPC and self-financing for at least a year of project implementation. Guy Enterprise was recommended by Office of the President and evaluated by Ministry of Transport, Works and Infrastructure to have all the requisite capacities. This evaluation was submitted to Cabinet for endorsement. On the 11th of May 2019, the EPC, that is the Turkey contract for the rehabilitation of roads, drains, and sewage systems in Banjul was signed between Guy Enterprise and Ministry of Transport, Works and Infrastructure for the lump sum amount of $35.72 million for a 3-year period. The contract is FIDIC based, second edition 2017, Silver Book, including general conditions and particular conditions of contract. On 14th May 2019, the consultancy services for the supervision of EPC contract for the rehabilitation of roads, drains, and sewage systems in Banjul was signed between Studi International for Africa, that's Port Louis, Republic of Mauritius, and Ministry of Works, Transport, and Infrastructure for the amount of $1.632 million for a period of 36 months. The contract is based on FIDIC Wide Book Client Consultant Model Service Agreement in line with international standards. On 30th of May 2019, Studi International, the consultants, provided the notice to proceed to Guy Enterprise with the construction works, retrospectively with effect from 1st of March 2019. The notice demanded the submission by Guy Enterprise of the technical documentation, performance securities, insurance, programs of the work, and CVs of key personnel for the works. The consultants had determined that the contractor demonstrate both technical and financial capacity to address the requirements of the project and recommended to issue notice to proceed. The above outlines the sequence of activities or events in the face of a critical project situation requiring extraordinary intervention using readily available local resource and immediate actions.
What the Auditor General requested is an explanation and justification from the ministry as what led to this commencement of the contract before the actual signing. The explanations were given by the management and perhaps what may sound justification. However, the auditors strongly maintain that what is clear about this project is that it was introduced without adequate preparation. There was no due diligence carried out, no feasibility study or environmental impact analysis. Failure to carry out feasibility study for a contract of this nature requiring huge financial layout is tantamount to malpractice. And what's the management take on that?
We have not received any updated management response other than that which was read out.
Apart from this, we have not received the management response?
Yes, updated.
Updated. Now, having received this from me by just reading what they have, what's your take on that?
It is not for me to decide to give you my verdict.
But as Accountant General.
Pardon?
But as Accountant General.
Right now, like I said, I am not in a position to assess and give a verdict.
Until when?
Until I have an updated response from the specific MBA.
Can you endeavor to provide the committee with that?
Pardon?
I said, can you endeavor to provide committee with that?
I will try.
Not to try, but to act. You will act.
No problem.
Good. Honorable members. Because I can see, it's like, if you look at it, even how it started, without no agreement, because starting a contract, you've not yet signed means you've not yet agreed. And then the contract has already started. Everything is wrong from the beginning. And then if you look at the action point, no one is even here to take the responsibility. So you will not be surprised if you see it happens again, because there's no commitment of it is going to be stopped. Yeah, matters dealing with the office of the president all boil down to the PS or the Secretary General, which we need to establish.
Sorry. So, Accountant General, I just want to be clear. During this process, when you were giving this management response, do you normally engage the office of the president? Whether you engage the office of the president for these responsibilities of taking responsibility to remedy the situation?
As part of our